Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat, and today I am doing my July wrap-up part 2. I have been delayed by about a week because last week we had the plague in our house. So my husband is a high school teacher and my daughter is a toddler, and we do a lot of play dates. So I don't know who brought the plague home, but all three of us got it. So that was so fun. But yeah, this week is a better week and we're getting things going again. So I cannot wait to wrap up July part 2 for you. I read so many books and I had such a good time in July. I think because I have started DNFing faster. So if I'm not enjoying something, then I'm like, absolutely not. We're gonna move on and read better things. So July was the time I was doing the Giallo Readathon, and I'm just gonna put up over my face so that you can see everything I did for each prompt. So I think I did like so well, except for one in particular, which I failed despite my efforts. So first we have yellow on the cover. So as you can see, 5 books, 2 DNFs, and then 3 that I did finish that all have yellow on the cover. Butter had the most yellow, and I was really thinking it'd be perfect, and then I just like really didn't like it. Also, if you note, the ones that have the red lettering, those are ones that I wrapped up in my part 1 for July, so I will leave that linked down below. We also have an animal on the cover or in the title, and for this one again, Butter had the cow, White Eye had the hawk. That cover is both amazing and awful at the same time. Memory of Animals, which had a ton of animals. You Will Speak for the Dead has a hedgehog. Smother Moss has a bunch of animals, like a fox, a bird, and a rabbit. And then Hawk Mountain obviously has a hawk. For the challenge, color in the title, this is the one that I tried my best, but I guess I failed if you count DNFs as a fail. So White Eye, I DNF'd at 30%, and Rouge, I DNF'd at 50%, even though it was a buddy read. So we'll get to that in a second. I also, the last prompt was a kill word in the title. So You Will Speak for the Dead, dead being that word, and then Smother Moss. Smother is such a good kill word because it's rarely ever in a title, I feel like. And I just really also liked that book. Yeah, so those were all the things that I read for all the prompts, and I like readathon prompts because they helped me navigate like picking my books, which I find like through luxury of choice. I have an amazing library that also has extensive like intercity loans and audiobooks, so sometimes it's difficult to pick what I want to read and get started. So thank you so much to the Giallo Readathon for helping me have an awesome July. So without further ado, I'm going to start the wrap up from my least favorites, like DNFs, into like 3 stars, all the way up to my favorite novel of the year so far. I can't even believe it. So yeah, all right, let's get it going. So we're just going to run through the DNFs really quick. My first DNF at 10% is The Ragpicker by Dane. This was supposed to be about like a post-apocalyptic world, and it's a girl traveling across the wastelands with like an older man who's teaching her things. This just really didn't work for me. I found it extremely slow and really, really confusing. So confusing, I couldn't even tell what was happening. So pass. Then I DNF'd Butter at 20%. And this one is about a journalist who is getting in touch with a female serial killer who killed her male lovers. And the journalist is using the killer's love of food to spark interest in her so that she'll communicate to her, because normally she won't speak to journalists. But tell me why I was bored. Okay. Tell me why I hated both characters. Yeah, so I was so bored and I wasn't connecting, and it was slow. So again, and it's a really long book, so it just was not working for me. And I'm a little confused because I've seen this hyped a lot of places, and I think it's being hyped preemptively, if that makes sense. Like the cover is amazing, the premise sounds amazing. I know it's been the front display in a lot of bookstores in the US and in the UK, and I would love to hear reviews because I did not like it. Next, I have a DNF at 50%. This is Rouge by Mona Awad. Yes, I was buddy reading this with AV from AV Club, and I wanted to continue. I did. I just was not having a good time, and it was putting me in a reading slump. But because I was buddy reading, I wanted to keep going because AV was like really liking it, and I wasn't feeling the same way. It's like a little heartbreaking because she's like, oh yeah, I really like this aspect about it, and I'm like, I really hate that aspect about it. So in that regard, we just had completely different tastes on that one. So it's about a woman whose mother dies, and she starts to get involved in and kind of look into the beauty cult that her mom was a part of. And it was good. The vibes are kind of haunting, like a little hazy, like a fever dream type thing. And the main character is really wishy-washy and easily controlled by others. So as she's figuring out and learning more about her mother's life, she's also being pulled into that world. Yeah, I just wasn't interested, and I wasn't really connecting with the main character. I found her annoying, and the mystery wasn't strong enough to compel me to finish it. Okay, and then the last DNF is What I Would Do to You by Georgia Harper. And this one is really, really irritating to me because I really wanted to like it. It's Australian fiction, and it's about a near future Australia where the death penalty is made legal. The only catch is that if you are found guilty, then the family members and the victims of that crime are allowed in a room with you with no cameras and as many weapons as they want for 24 hours until the death is carried out. So I was really interested in what was going to happen. There are two unfortunate situations in here. One is that the young girl who is murdered is young. I think she's 10 years old, and I was fine with it at first. Not fine with it, but I mean, like, it didn't trigger my, like, mom aversion, because I have a very young daughter. But then, like, we got some gruesome details of the actual murder and the assault, and at that point I was like, I cannot continue on. And that is on top of some weird pacing issues, and this being told through the most boring perspective, which is through the perspective of like the court-appointed therapist, which I understand that the author herself is, I believe, a therapist, but that's like the most boring perspective, and we didn't even need it. I would have preferred for it to be through the perspective of the people trying to make the choice, not through the person watching them make a choice. It's like twice removed. Anyway, yeah, so I even tried this on audio, and I was like, no, it's not working. Physical, audio, no. All right, so now we are gonna get into the ones that I did actually finish. First, I wanna talk about The Memory of Animals by Claire Fuller. This is very interesting. This would probably make an amazing book club book. It's one of those books where there are so many things to think about and really like discuss. So there's a young woman who has a lot of debt, and she has recently been fired from her job as a marine biologist at an aquarium. And she decides to sign up for this drug trial where you take the drug and then you have to be in the center, I think, for 2 weeks while they monitor what's going on. So she checks in, she gets the first like injection, and then the whole world goes haywire. So there is a virus or something that breaks out, and the new variant makes people have red gummy eyes and lose control of like their brain processes very slowly, like physically and mentally. and then their limbs also start to swell. And it is horrifying, okay? So the events that are happening in the lab, because she wakes up from having some severe reactions to the vaccine, and she realizes that she's been locked in her room. And the other patients who it went to crap, and the ones who are out there are ones who didn't have the vaccine, they have locked her in because they don't know if she's like alive or dead, contagious or not. And it goes from there. So that was really good. But the other half is that she's living through flashbacks of her past and her family life in Greece. And those flashbacks were so boring. I honestly just skimmed them at the end of the book because I was like, I just need to finish this because I really wanted to know what was happening in the actual world we're set in. And those aspects I feel like could have been completely removed from the book and it wouldn't have taken anything away. So I have really mixed feelings about this. I did give it 3 stars, but like I think it would be good to read with people, but then also there were some really annoying things about it as well. So the next book I want to talk about came out July 23rd, and this is another 3-star for me. This is Imaginary Strangers by Minka Kent. I listened to this on audio, and that's probably the only reason why I managed to get through it, because despite being billed as a psychological thriller, this was not that thrilling and not that psychological. Like, okay, hear me out. There's this woman, and her daughter starts to talk about Imaginary, who is her friend at school. And the woman realizes that Imaginary might actually be her mother, who she cut contact with in the past because she was extremely abusive and narcissistic. And the woman is going to go to any lengths to protect her family, her husband and her young daughter. Okay, however, there is a lot of talk in the mom's head, like, I know everything, I'm strategizing, I need to keep my family safe, I need to do this, I need to do that. It's like where a character's like, it's like the villain monologue only for the hero, but nothing ever happened. She's like, I'm gonna think of all this strategy and like mega mind it. But she's really dumb, So I was just like, this is not working for me at all. And it has a high rating on Goodreads. It has a 4.16, so maybe I'm just an asshole, but this did not work for me at all. And actually it made me laugh, which is not good, but cause she was just like, I'm so clever and this and this. And I'm like, girl, you're not that clever. Oh, yeah, anyway. And I guess the end from like way far back. So I always hate that in a thriller too, where I get it from like the beginning. I'm like, okay, what was the point of that? Okay, where was I? Sorry, I had to just go help my elderly dog up onto the couch. I have 2 dogs and one of them turns 13 this year, and jumping up onto the couch is not her favorite activity anymore, so I gave her a boost. All right, I want to talk about the last 3-star I have, which came out July 14th. This is Count Felford's Vessel by S. Rodman. I've read S. Rodman before. They write paranormal romance, and usually like there's a really funny sense of humor, which is why I decided to pick it up, because I was starting to go into a reading slump for my DNFs and I just wanted something like quick and I could just like read it and have a good time, you know? So it's just a 3-star. It's not really that memorable. I had a good time reading it. It's about someone who's like a vessel. They contain magic, so they're paired with sorcerers because basically they marry them and they become a conduit and they boost the magician's energy or whatever. It's all very like sexual and yada yada. But the plot was so weak on this one, but I did have a good time. So 3 stars. All right, and now we are getting up into 3.5-star territory. I want to talk about Tricksters by N.L. McLaughlin. This came out July 24th. This is a coyote shapeshifter slasher horror book. So slashers aren't exactly my thing. I don't like just like tons of splatter everywhere. I like more like psychological or survival. And this did have elements of both of those. So in that regard, it was a success, but the plot fell apart for the sake of like bloodlust. And that's why it's like a 3.5. So we're following tricksters, who are coyote shapeshifters who live in this town, and they basically have an agreement with the town. They won't hunt the locals if the locals also just let them kill any like visitors. So the first half of the book is this group of like young 20s who are going caravanning and camping, and they ask if there's like a free place to go, and the locals very helpfully tell them, oh yeah, there's like this place that we always send people. And then shit goes down. So this, I think, would be for anyone who likes paranormal shapeshifting and a lot of blood and gore. It's very on page and very visceral. However, the plot was not super strong, and the end was, in my opinion, not good. Like, there's just out of nowhere. It's like at the end of a book when suddenly there's aliens and you're like, what is going on? There were not aliens in this book. I'm just saying the ending had something where I was like, okay, out of nowhere. Yeah, so I don't think that it's my cup of tea, and I don't think I'll be reading this author again. The other 3.5 I have is The Unmothers by Leslie J. Anderson. This was a NetGalley I had, and it came out August 6th. So is that now? That is now. I mean, before now, so it's out now. My brain is melting. Sorry. So this is for all the horse girls out there, or boys, or non-binary folks that like horses, okay? So this is for you. This is billed as folk horror, set in a small town with horse energy, and it kind of delivers. So we're following a journalist who recently lost her husband, and as kind of this way of letting her grieve in peace, her boss sends her on this assignment to this town where it is rumored that a horse has given birth to a healthy baby boy. And she goes to interview the young man who's said to be the father of that baby. And things in this town are weird. And the beginning, the first third, I was like, absolutely, let's go. Because that is such a strong, bold opening. The whole town is like, yeah, he had sex with that horse, and yeah, that's his baby. And I'm like, okay, weird, that's just, we're all thinking that, okay. And then the middle third, we go down the track, a completely different track about like town violence and inherited trauma and generational like poverty and just lots of things that are swirling in this town that make it like really messy, and systems of power, etc. And then the last third, for me personally, didn't really like cinch the ending. I wish it had. I feel like the author tried to tie stuff up too completely without going too hard, and I don't appreciate that, okay? I wanted you to go hard, and I wanted you to take it there. Yeah, so it was 3.5 for me. It just didn't feel like it came together in the way that I wanted it to. But I do think that if you like folk horror elements without too much blood and guts, as opposed to the one I just talked about, this one is more like atmospheric folk horror and off-page horror, and just weird isolated town stuff where you're like, girl, just leave. Boy, just leave. Just leave. Just leave. Just leave the town. But they never do. So yeah, there you go. So let's move on into the 4-star category. This is Broiler by Eli Craner. This was an audiobook I had, and it came out July 2nd. This is set in a small town in Arkansas, in the US, and it is centered on a chicken meat plant and two families. The first family is composed of two illegal immigrants who were high school sweethearts, and now they both work at the chicken factory. And the other family is the chicken plant manager and his wife, and he's up for a promotion. They just had a new baby who's 6 months old, and so they are kind of the halves of the story. They are wealthier, and then the two workers who work there, they have suffered a miscarriage due to probably the plant conditions, and they are really struggling in their life. When suddenly, to make a point, the plant manager fires the man who's working at the plant, and he decides to get revenge and steal their baby in order to get ransom money that he feels like the plant owes them. And things go from there. So this had me on the edge of my seat. One thing I really liked is all four of the main characters, you get all of their points of view, and they are pretty well fleshed out. And three of them I would say are gray, and one of them is just a complete asshole villain. So hated him, but all of them are more complex and nuanced. So it was really fascinating trying to guess what they would do in response to what other ones are doing, because they can't call the police for certain reasons. On one side, the plant manager doesn't want to call because he is hiring and abusing illegal immigrants and he's up for promotion. And on the other hand, the illegal immigrants don't want to call because they're working here illegally. So they have to work this kidnapping / ransom situation out on their own. And yeah, so I was like, whoo, what is gonna happen? And the reason that I give it 4 stars, not higher, is one of the characters acted uncharacteristically, in my opinion, and it didn't really make sense. It made sense for the plot, but it didn't make sense for the character to act that way. And the other reason is that the end was really neatly tied up, with a bow. I do not like it when a story is so perfectly tied up. Everything is perfect. It just feels contrived and unrealistic. So yeah, that's why I give it 4 stars. I still really liked it, but those things were still there. Let's talk about my second favorite in this video. This is 4.25 stars, and it is coming out October 10th of this year. Yes, I do not know why NetGalley had this so early and why it was going to be archived so early. So if you don't know, you can request books, and then usually I try to read them closer to when they're coming out. But this one was insanely early, so it won't even be out till October. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. This is You Will Speak for the Dead by R.A. Busby, and this is about a man named Paul who, his life is kind of falling apart. His mother has died, his boyfriend has left him, and he really puts his all into cleaning hoarder houses. So this is very niche, okay? If you cannot stand hoarded houses, hoards, mold, dirt, yuckiness, don't read this book. It won't be for you. For me, I really love to watch shows like Hoarders, or there's one cleaning channel on YouTube who's really good. She treats people really kindly, and she really just loves to clean. I find her videos very soothing. I'm probably putting it up now. Oh, and there's another one, Midwest Magic Cleaning, I think, also, where he talks over, and he's very dry and witty. He talks over while he cleans as well. Needless to say, this book was really interesting for me because this book also has a mold situation growing in the book when he starts to realize that it may have infected him. And when I say that some really gross stuff happened in this book, I mean it. It's gross. And I was like, ew. Also, ouch and gross. Yeah, I just I had to to read parts to my husband because I was like, yo, check this out. And my husband is like a D&D player, so he shares things with me and I share things with him. He's like, that's great, sweetie. I'm really happy for you that that's really gross. And you've just told me something super gross, and we're like sitting in bed and I'm like, but it's so good though. If you do that with your partner, also let me know down below. It put R.A. Busby on my radar, and I just had it in, I think, one of my most anticipated releases. I think it's To You All Flesh Shall Come, is that right? And it has the biblical angel on it. Maybe? I'm gonna put it up, maybe? Yeah, so I wanna read that real bad. All right, and without further ado, let's talk about Hawk Mountain. So, this one I read because I had heard Sam from Super Blomper rave about it. This is unsettling, weird, creepy. Like, if you want to read a book where you are creeped out from the beginning, like it's just the mood where something is not right. And something is not right the whole entire book. So we're following a 33-year-old man who is divorced and he's taking care of his young son. And he decides for a fresh start, they're gonna move to a new town, and he takes a new teaching job. And he's playing with his son at the beach when a man walks up to them and he realizes the man is his old high school bully who is just visiting the town, and he needs a place to stay. And there's just something about needing to be polite and have good manners and not rock the boat, and he lets him stay at his house. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. No way. But you know how it is when like something is off, someone's awful, or you know what I mean? You want to just tell someone to like go F themselves and extricate yourself from the situation as soon as possible, but you don't. You just stay there and you're just in that horrible vibe of like, I want to leave, I hate this, I don't want to be here, but you have to be like socially polite. That's what this whole book is. It makes you so unsettled. And as that guy named Jack is in Todd's house interacting with his son, I'm like, hell to the no, please get that man out of your house. Get him out of your house. And as things devolve, I'm not gonna say anything else about the plot because I don't wanna spoil anything. This had a twist and I was like, what? Oh my God, unforeseen. So I love it when a book just completely like grabs you by the throat and like is shaking you all around and you don't know what is going on. Like this book, woo! I gave it 4.75 stars. It's my favorite novel of the year and it's in the top 3 reads of all year. My other 2 top ones are illustrated. So this shit is some good shit. And if you like dark books and you like books that I read, definitely, absolutely read this book. And I'm so glad I read it off of Sam's recommendation. I think another video I'm gonna film coming up, I can't today because my daughter's nap, is almost over. But I think another one I'm gonna film is telling you everything I love in books, and then please, you can recommend books to me because this was fabulous and I'm so happy and I love it because I think everyone who watches and maybe reads books similar to me would know books that I would like. Like you know my tastes the most. So yeah, I think I'll do that next and I'm so excited that I read this book. And yeah, I hope that you have been reading some really good books as well. Let me know the last book you read that you really enjoyed, and I will talk to you in another video soon. Lots of love. Bye!